All right, so here we start off with Bitcoin as usual, and I want to follow up on first the low-term timeframes, of which Bitcoin hitting the top side of the short-term timeframe range highs in this case. That's going to be right around that 41,500-ish region on a closing basis. Thus far, no closures above there, so I still do not look at this as a resolution. And while I think a lot of the market right now is getting rather excited for this move, which, hey, a $2,000 move off the lows is a big deal, obviously. Has anything actually changed from a market structure perspective? No. Bitcoin's still more or less ranging on the lows. And in the short-term timeframes, we do have kind of the same range as yesterday as well. 41.5 to the upside versus about 41, sorry, not 41, but 40, I was saying 40,200 yesterday. I'd actually maintain with that, although more aggressive people will look at about 40,500 now that we do see a little bit of a potential higher low in the short-term timeframes right around that region. But ultimately, as long as Bitcoin's offsetting between this region, I wouldn't necessarily be looking at any sort of busting action. Now, to reference the title of this video, I do believe that there will be some busting action probably within the next 5 days. When I refer to busting action, I do expect a break either of this area right here, which very likely does lead towards the same target that we've been speaking about for the past couple days, relevant on a range resolution above about 41.5 on CME, that is, CME. And let me actually just double check. Sorry, no, that is 41.6 on CME. I think it's more around 41.5 on spot price action. With that in mind, if Bitcoin were to take out that level, while there very likely will be stops along the way, I would be looking for a move somewhere around the 0.5 Fibonacci retracement at about 43,000 bucks even on CME. Do I think that things could trade up higher from there over time? Yes, absolutely. But I would be looking for, more importantly, a lovely pullback first from there, perhaps even as low as about $42,000 after that, and then very likely mounts an assault at that 618 on a bearish retracement about just above 44,000 bucks. That is where I do put the bear trap long-term macro case gets confirmed, which is just a long way of saying that's where I look at a long-term macro bear trap confirmed. Sorry, that was quite verbose. But in this case, as long as Bitcoin's below here, I do still look at the long term as having risk to the downside. And technically speaking, from the higher term timeframes, the probabilities do remain to the downside as long as Bitcoin is below that $44,000 to $45,000 pivot. Big 5-day closure coming a little bit later today, but we'll get to that in just a second here. Before that, I kind of want to round off the Bula-ish case, the short term Bula-ish case first. And if we're going to do that, then I need to go over here to Dixie. Actually, shout out to Mr. Sinegra for calling this one out, because I forgot to mark it down myself. And what do we have? We do have a move into the blue box territory that we'd highlighted out over the past. Realistically, we highlighted it like way back over here in November on the breakout. That move has now happened. We've seen we've seen the full on measure move hit deep inside that region. So I would be looking for a pullback from there, and I believe that likely does help out Bitcoin versus the dollar. So that would be obviously more on the Bula-ish side, but still the most important thing is I need to see a closure on CME above 41,650, I think it is, or on spot price action above about 41,550 or so. If we start to get that, if Bitcoin starts to do that, more importantly, or more accurately said, I would be looking for that next leg up somewhere around the 0.5, which is about $43,000, and that's going to sort of change around the medium-term time frame picture. Still, however, again, anything below 44 to 45, I do look at as, general risk to the downside more long term. Anyways, in this case right here, how low does this one pull back after hitting this region? Well, we are hitting essentially a monthly region right here. So this is probably going to happen over time, but I actually would be looking for this to pull back down definitely, or I shouldn't say definitely, but very likely below 100, probably somewhere around 99.5 is where I'd be looking for. Quite likely. Now, in this case, I am going to draw a fib from the breakout, or let's just move this over here for now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a fib from the breakout and kind of track what would be a bullish pullback in this case. And in this case, we do actually see some interest right around about 98.7 and 97.7, which would be, a rather big move that probably does happen over the, perhaps over the next few months. Now, again, I want to be so damn clear in stating this, that while I am looking for a pullback on Dixie, I am not long-term macro bearish. Long-term macro, I am massively bullish on this. We do see hidden bullish divergence going all the way back to the last few major macro lows, and we've seen the lowest volatility reads that we've ever seen on Dixie on the quarterly, that is, as I turn the volume down right there. And that, alongside that hidden bullish evidence, very likely does get resolved to the upside. And I would probably be looking over the next few years, maybe a little bit longer than that, since this is a quarterly, so it's probably going to take a long time, somewhere around about $1.10 or so, give or take about $1 from that number. Long term, though, it still does remain within an overall downtrend, but this is a quarterly, so these things can play out for a very, 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 very long time. And technically speaking, the macro trend of Dixie has been inversely correlated to Bitcoin. Now, with that in mind, again, I do want to say that when we are looking at Bitcoin, it's best to look at Bitcoin if we're going to be judging and trading Bitcoin itself rather than looking at Dixie. But it does kind of help round out the Boolah case right there. Anyways, let me just reference my my notes over here. And yes, now let's get into the more nuanced understanding of this, because I do think that this is really, really important right now, to be quite honest with you. So first and foremost, one of the reasons why I am still more on the, let's go over the bullish case a little bit more. There's a few more things over here on CME. For CME, as long as Bitcoin does remain above that last higher low, which is about 39,000 bucks, there is still hope, or it's not necessarily that there is still hopium here. There quite literally is hopium right here. I mean, you are within the midst of creating 1, 2, 3, 4 higher lows in this case. And typically speaking, when you are going to see a reversal on any time frame, for example, you typically see your higher lows first or your lower highs first if you're going to reverse, from an uptrend, from a downtrend to an uptrend, or an uptrend to a downtrend, respectively speaking. And in this case, we're starting, we obviously have a slew of higher lows, not just on the daily, but all the way up to potentially a weekly right here, 1, 2, 3 going on. So as long as Bitcoin does hold above that, the Boolahs do still have the hopium that this actually is a reaccumulation formation right here. Probably takes a very, very long time. Resolution above on a higher term time frame, $44,000, very likely does imply targets up deep into the 50s, probably around 56 to 50 to 60,000 bucks, to be quite honest with you. If we do throw on a fib over here, you will notice that the macro fib retracement would show the 618 right around that region. And again, this is a bear retracement just because this was a downturn right here, but that'd be a high quality target on the actual breakout out of this structure. Until then, though, that is alive as a potential, but I do want to express that I am, I do consider that there are higher probabilities of a breakdown from here rather than an actual major macro low. The reason why is because of this chart still hasn't gone away. But here's the thing: the 5-day chart is closing today. It's closing today at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Then we get a new 5-day, obviously, and that next 5-day, I do think is probably gonna be the one that actually does start to expand off of these volatility lows. So remember, anytime that we have seen 5-day BBWP, essentially volatility, in the teens or lower than that, the expansion phase from there has had a pretty major effect on price action, typically getting about 45% to the upside or the downside from that expansion moment. And you'll actually notice on all of these past iterations that once you get that first tick up, it actually jumps up like 20 or 30 percentile in one go. So once you actually get that first move, it happens rather fast, to be quite fair. And you typically do find that the totality of the move is had within the following just over 40 days or so. So about 45% in 40 days. We've still yet to see the expansion though. So I've been getting some questions about this, like, Crown, when 40% move? It's like, you have to realize that you can't be looking for it, or at least I would not be looking for it, until you see this first tick up right here. Right now, it's actually still ticking down. And I've kind of drawn a LARP line on this one to show what it would likely look like when you do get the expansion. So we're going to get another tick on this tonight. If you see that start to turn up, that's going to be a good sign that we probably do see resolution on the macro. Perhaps this next five, perhaps maybe a little bit longer than that, to 10 days, but very likely within the next 5 days if that starts to happen. So until then, the countdown to the 40 days doesn't really start, and it's actually a little bit over 40 days. And at the end of the day, again, remember, these are statistics that we're looking at. They are not going to be like a 100% infallible crystal ball, if you will. So the reason why I do say that the probabilities are still on the downside here in comparison to the upside is simply because of this. The 5-day stochastic momentum has accurately gotten the direction on that volatility expansion, especially on like the first tick up from it, extremely well for the last couple of years here. And we can even go further back than that, obviously, but I figured that this is just easiest to see. And as you can see, Right now, it is nice and healthily down, even playing out a bit of a trendline regression rejection here, and we can forecast the price action level that would be needed in order to force it back up. So until Bitcoin closes above this region, which is closing today at 45,550, well, that will remain with downside momentum. So it would follow that the volatility expansion from this region, as long as that condition is met, likely comes with downside price action, which obviously is probably not what a lot of people want to hear. But the problem is that as long as this setup is available in its current form, I do believe that there is more downside risk than upside at the current moment in time. Again, this is the major condition right here, 45,550. This number is going to change upon closure tonight. Here would be this would be a really, really good signal that it is going to not be to the upside, and by contrast be to the downside. The actual move itself is if you see the level that is needed to make the stochastic cross to the upside, if you see that go up, so if upon closure it goes up to like 46,000 or 47,000, that's going to be a really, really good signal that it probably does eventually come back down, and we do see this volatility expansion with big downside movements. The problem with this whole thing is that we have to kind of fit this into the picture of short-term timeframes, medium-term timeframes, and high and macro timeframes. Obviously, these are very high-term timeframes. So let's now go down to the short-term timeframes here, and I want to follow up on yesterday's price action analysis as well. Remember yesterday we were saying, hey, look, this move short-term looks good. Yes, likely test the top side of the range. The day before that, I was biased to the downside. I was very much wrong about that. I want to be very honest about that as well, because well, there's nothing wrong with that, to be quite frank. But in this case right here, if we look at CME, just testing up to the 55 right now, getting the range highs, and more importantly, the same things that we were looking at yesterday are still available here. And what were those? That was potential hidden bearish divergence, which is still very much available on the 4-hour upon confirmation of a local high, and the 6-hour as well. So this goes all the way up to a 6-hour, 1, 2, 3 drives even. If we go over here to a 12-hour, I'm curious to see if it's going to be there. And yes, hold on. Yes, it would be there if Bitcoin does confirm a local high here. So how would Bitcoin confirm a local high, thus confirming that hidden bearish divergence, thus confirming targets back down, very likely to the bottom side of our range right now, which is about 39,000 bucks, is this. I would go down here to an hourly, actually, and if I'm using an hourly, I would say anywhere below, especially 40,300 on CME would do it for me. If I'm a little bit more aggressive, I'd say 40,400, basically 40,500, or sorry, what is this wick low right here? 40,000, basically 40,400. Okay, close enough in this case. If that does happen, I would be looking for Bitcoin to retest its lows of the week, probably another short-term bounce there, and then very likely sets it up for continuation in the following week or two towards, new lows, somewhere down around about 37,000 bucks is where I'd be looking for the next, major bounce, if you will. On top of that, we would naturally see that stochastic momentum would also turn down naturally alongside those signals if confirmed, which again are, just like yesterday, are present but not confirmed, which is very fucking important, because obviously until they get confirmed, well, there's no trade setup as far as I'm concerned. Not that I actually even use that, or I do trade divergences here and there, but that is not the crux of my current strategy. Anyways, in this case, we do see the 6-hour is going to turn down on CME below 40,900. The 4-hour is going to be turning down below 40,900 as well. So we see that number coming up a couple times already. 3-hour is probably already down, very, very close to being down. Will turn down officially below 41,550. And hourly is probably flippy floppy and maybe even up right now. No, it's actually nosediving below 41,550 as well. So I would go as far as to say that if you do see, especially the 4-hour and 6-hour resolve below 40,900, we're very likely going to come down and test around those range lows, as I said right here, between about, let's just say it's 40,400. I think that that's honestly good enough in this case. And well, that would probably be, a very good early warning signal that, like kind of like a red flag or yellow flag, whatever the color is, I don't even know, that Bitcoin probably does put in a local high right there. Again, full on confirmation is below about 40,400. And then yes, I would be looking for, basically the week's lows to get retested and, probably further down from there, to be fair. Over time. But for right now, we do see that a move is very likely building up today. We do see extremely low volatility conditions on the hourly, on the 4-hour actually trending up right now. And then I think on the daily, we are incredibly low as well. No, but on spot price action, we should be. And yes, we are. And by the way, this low volatility reads on spot price action on the daily specifically for the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And again, we can probably back test further than that. has led towards 20% moves on average from that expansion, typically doing most of that move in the first day. So again, we haven't necessarily seen it just yet. I want to see that have a first tick up, but it would be relevant to say that we could very easily see that today. In fact, I would say that we probably see it today or tomorrow, Thursday, that is. Anyways, other than that, let's see. So yes, I think we spoke about that. We spoke about targets. We spoke about that. Okay. And then the other thing that maybe I might want to bring up is perhaps funny rates, I guess, on the short-term timeframes, trending up a little bit here. Again, I don't really look at it as like super concerning just yet, but if that starts to, if we start to see a local high confirmed plus these sort of reads, yeah, I would be looking for the next kind of big move down. Problem is that I don't think Bitcoin would have like one of those major shattering moves to the downside. So here I kind of have to, temper expectations. When looking at the higher term timeframes like the daily, we do see that daily stochastic momentum is, it's gonna be hard to kind of really force this one down like big in the short term, if that's even gonna happen at all. And then the 2-day kind of same thing as well. Actually, the 2 days pretty still nosedivey right there. So maybe I take that back. But ultimately, the ranges are pretty well set, and well, just a little bit of patience. I suspect in the next 24 to 36 hours or so, we probably do have resolution on this one, and probably see the 5-day signal start to play out as well, which I'll be very much intently watching myself. Anyways, hopefully that was helpful, and there you go for Bitcoin, sirs and zers.